Sensationalism has dominated media for years now, especially when it comes to violent, disturbed individuals. Serial killers, mass shooters, the people we label as monsters. There's a morbid curiosity surrounding them. We want motives. We want warning signs. We want something that makes it make sense. But what happens when there isn't a clear explanation? When there's no traumatic backstory dramatic enough to package the horror into something understandable? That's when the real discomfort sets in, because then we're left with a question people have been arguing about forever. Are some people simply born this way, or are they shaped into it? That's exactly the tension we need to talk about Kevin sits in. Through the eyes of a mother approaching the 2-year anniversary of her son's massacre, she navigates the hostility of her community while she's also forced inward, replaying memories, dissecting her own failures, and questioning whether Kevin was always destined for violence, or whether her ambivalence, resentment, and emotional distance helped create it. At its core, the film isn't just about a school shooting. It's about the unbearable weight of maternal guilt and the terrifying possibility that love might not always be enough. And the film doesn't just explore these ideas through dialogue or plot, it embeds them into the imagery itself. Before we even understand Kevin, we're confronted with Ava. Not as a mother, not as a pariah, but as someone she used to be. The first time Ava is shown, she's at La Tomatina in Spain, youthful and immersed in her life as a travel writer. Tomatoes flood the street, the crowd surges like the ocean, and she's lifted above it all, red pulp and juice coating her body. It feels celebratory, almost euphoric. But in hindsight, it's hard not to see it as ominous. The red isn't just festive, it foreshadows what's to come. The blood, the guilt, the stain she'll carry after Kevin's massacre, even though she never committed the crime herself. That symbolism continues in the present. Ava lies alone on a couch in a small, dingy house. When she steps outside, she finds her porch and windshield splattered with red paint. Throughout the film, there's a reoccurring motif of her scrubbing, scraping, even sanding this paint away. It's as if the more she scrubs the house, the more she starts scrubbing through her own past. It represents her guilt, something she's desperate to erase, but it never fully disappears. And tellingly, these attempts to clean the red are often paired with memories she interprets as early signs of Kevin's sociopathy. What makes these moments of scrubbing so powerful is that they're never just about the paint. They're about memory. Every time Ava tries to sand away that red stain, the film cuts back to her past, almost as if she's mentally scrubbing through her own history, searching for the moment everything went wrong. And the memories she revisits aren't warm or maternal. They're uncomfortable, tense, and often disturbing. Kevin's incessant crying as an infant, his refusal to engage as a toddler, the calculated defiance and manipulation he displays as a young child. Each memory feels like evidence, building a case that Kevin was simply born this way, that this was always his nature. The film complicates that idea through a recurring image, the digital clock turning to 12:01. Midnight usually signals an ending, but 12:01 is the start of something new, a technical beginning. Here, though, it doesn't feel hopeful. It feels irreversible. The first time it appears, it marks Kevin's conception. Not an act of romance, not a joyful decision, but something reluctant and uncertain. Ava's hesitation lingers in that moment. The clock doesn't just mark time, it marks the start of a life she never fully wanted. It appears again the night before the massacre. The same quiet shift, the same finality. The film visually links Kevin's birth to his violence, not to confirm inevitability, but to raise the question. Was this trajectory set in motion from the very start? But inevitability doesn't just live in symbols like the clock. It lives in the dynamic between Ava and Kevin themselves. Because as much as Ava tries to dissect Kevin like he's some unknowable anomaly, the film keeps hinting at something much more unsettling, that they're not as different as she'd like to believe. As much as Ava feels resentment and emotional distance from Kevin, the film repeatedly shows how similar they are, whether either of them wants to admit it or not. The resemblance isn't just physical. It's temperamental. Sharp, observant, cutting. When Kevin is a teenager, Ava invites him out for mini golf and dinner, and surprisingly, he agrees. It's one of the few moments where they almost resemble a functional mother and son. But even there, the tension lingers. Ava makes snide remarks about other people at the course, and Kevin calls her out for being harsh. When she snaps back that he's one to talk, he calmly responds, "Where do you think I get it from?" It's a small line, but it lands hard. Because for once, Kevin isn't being cryptic or manipulative, he's being direct. The film forces us to consider the possibility that some of Kevin's cruelty didn't come from nowhere. It may have been modeled. The motif of the jelly sandwiches reinforces this uncomfortable connection. We see them throughout Kevin's childhood. Messy, smeared, deliberately dropped. They function as both a literal and metaphorical mess for Ava to clean up, symbolizing Kevin's defiance and destructive tendencies. But later, as a teenager, Kevin makes the same sandwich for himself, and near the end of the film, Ava eats one too. It's a subtle but meaningful detail. The sandwich stops being just a symbol of destruction and becomes a shared ritual. If Kevin truly despised Ava entirely, why continue making a lunch so distinctly tied to her? It reads almost like muscle memory, or even affection. A quiet acknowledgement of connection. And what makes it tragic is that Kevin seems, in his own twisted way, more accepting of who Ava is than she is of herself. If the mini golf scene and the jelly sandwiches suggest similarity, the next set of moments suggests something even more disturbing: awareness. Kevin doesn't just mirror Ava, he seems to study her, to understand exactly what matters to her, and then to dismantle it. There's a moment where Ava tries to reclaim a piece of herself. She creates a private room filled with maps, travel books, and souvenirs from her past life as a travel writer, a quiet attempt to preserve an identity outside of motherhood. When Kevin sees it, he dismisses it as dumb. Ava explains that it's her special space and offers to make his room reflect his personality. His response is chillingly simple. What personality? When she steps away to take a phone call and returns, Kevin is filling a squirt gun with watered-down paint. The walls are already splattered, her sanctuary defaced. Later, Franklin, her husband, relays Kevin's apology, claiming he only wanted to make her room special, deliberately throwing her own words back at her. By this point, Kevin has already displayed manipulation and cruelty, but this feels more precise. It's not random destruction, it's targeted. He doesn't just break objects, he attacks identity. The room represented who Ava was before him, and he erases it. That pattern extends to Celia, his younger sister. When Kevin is first introduced to his baby sister, he sees Ava's joy and immediately flicks water at the sleeping infant to make her cry. As a teenager, his hostility escalates. He belittles Celia, kills her guinea pig by putting it in the garbage disposal, and later, when Celia is blinded in one eye by drain cleaner, the blame quietly shifts toward Ava for leaving it out, even though the film strongly implies Kevin was responsible. There's a scene where Kevin is told not to blame himself for the accident. As Ava struggles with the unspoken truth, Kevin eats a lychee in an exaggerated, grotesque way, staring at her, almost daring her to accuse him. He knows she can't prove anything. The power lies in that silence. And yet, the film complicates the idea that Kevin is simply incapable of connection. When he's sick as a child, he allows Ava to care for him. He cuddles into her as she reads Robin Hood, and for a brief moment, their relationship feels tender, almost normal. But even that memory curdles. Kevin later takes up archery. What begins as a childhood hobby evolves into mastery, and eventually becomes his weapon of choice during the massacre. It's as if that rare moment of closeness is weaponized. The one memory where Ava feels needed, where she feels like a mother, becomes linked to the instrument of violence. And that's what makes Kevin so terrifying within the nature versus nurture debate. If he were purely incapable of love, this wouldn't feel so calculated. But he seems to understand intimacy and then repurpose it. which raises the most unsettling possibility of all. Kevin doesn't just want to hurt people, he wants to hurt her. But as calculated as Kevin's behavior can feel, the film never lets the question rest comfortably on him alone. It quietly turns the camera back on Ava. Their relationship is undeniably complex, and it's hard not to wonder whether some of Kevin's cruelty is reactive. Does he act this way simply because he knows Ava doesn't want him? Is he trying to force her to drop the performance of conventional motherhood and admit what she's always felt? From the very beginning, Ava's ambivalence is palpable. During his toddler years, in a moment of exhaustion and frustration, she tells Kevin her life was better before he was born, that she used to be happy, that she could have been living in France. In another moment of rage, she throws him against a wall, breaking his arm. These aren't subtle failures. The film isolates that moment. There's no ambiguity there. It's a clear rupture, one of the few undeniable harms inflicted on him. Franklin later insists it was an accident based on Kevin's lie of the event. Ava knows it wasn't. Ava struggles to connect with her son, and at times she is undeniably a bad mother. Impatient, resentful, detached. And when Kevin grows into someone manipulative and cruel, it's difficult not to see a distorted reflection. If she models bitterness and emotional distance, is he simply learning how to weaponize it? There's an almost cyclical quality to their dynamic. She feels rejected by him, so she withdraws. He senses the withdrawal, so he escalates. She hates herself for not loving him the way she believes she should, and that self-loathing bleeds into her interactions with him. In that sense, Kevin becomes both her punishment and her proof, evidence of her perceived failure. And yet, the film complicates the nurture argument just as quickly as it supports it. Even in moments where Ava seems genuine, when she's trying to be softer, more present, more patient, Kevin continues to push her. He provokes. He withholds. He tests her limits psychologically, which is what makes the nature versus nurture debate, and we need to talk about Kevin, so unsettling. Ava is flawed, sometimes deeply so. But is she responsible for creating a killer? Or is she a woman who sensed something was wrong from the beginning and was punished for it? The film never offers an easy answer. Instead, it traps us in the same space Ava occupies, doubt. And maybe that lingering doubt is the point. The film refuses to give us a clear answer about who is responsible, but it does give us clarity about one thing: Ava's love. As much as uncertainty haunts every memory and interaction, by the end, there's little doubt that Ava loves Kevin. Not in a sentimental, cinematic way, but in a stubborn, enduring one. She remains in the same town despite the hostility of her community. She could leave. Start over somewhere anonymous. But she doesn't. She stays, absorbing the stares, the vandalism, the isolation, all so she can continue visiting Kevin in prison. After his incarceration, she shows up weekly, even when they barely speak. Even when the silence between them is suffocating, she still shows up. There's a quiet reveal near the end. Ava's hands are seen making a bed that resembles the one from Kevin's childhood. At first, it feels like a memory, but it's in her present-day, small, stripped-down house. She's prepared a room for him, a space that echoes his childhood bedroom, almost as if she's trying to reconstruct something that was broken. It reads like an impossible wish, the desire to redo his upbringing, to try again, to fix what she believes she ruined. And Kevin knows she loves him. Maybe not because of warm childhood moments, there are so few of those, but because of her endurance now. He's taken everything from her. Her husband, her daughter, her reputation, her sense of safety. Yet she continues to give him her time, her presence, her loyalty. What's especially striking is that Kevin never targets Ava physically during the massacre. For someone so deliberate, that absence feels intentional. Killing her would have been simple. Instead, he leaves her alive. Alone, ostracized, forced to carry the aftermath. And in a way, that may be the cruelest choice of all. And maybe that's the final cruelty Kevin inflicts on her. He doesn't just leave her alive to endure the aftermath, he withholds certainty. Because in the end, We Need to Talk About Kevin raises more questions than it answers. Not just because Ava is an unreliable narrator replaying memories through guilt, but because Kevin himself refuses to define his own motives. On the second anniversary of the massacre, just days before his 18th birthday and transfer to adult prison, Ava visits him again. This time, the dynamic feels different. Kevin is anxious, almost childlike, about what's coming next. Ava offers him a kind of restrained comfort, and then she asks the question that has haunted her since the beginning. Why did you do it? Kevin pauses. I used to think I knew, he says, but now I'm not so sure. It's the closest thing to an explanation she's ever received, and it's not an explanation at all. Ava nods. Visiting time ends. She hugs him, not the teenage monster the world sees, but her son, and walks away. As she exits the prison, she's engulfed in an overwhelming white light. It's almost blinding. After a film saturated in red tomatoes, red paint, red jelly, red blood, this stark white feels jarring. But it isn't comforting. If red has represented guilt, permanence, and stain, the white light feels like something else entirely. Emptiness, uncertainty, a blank space where answers should be. It could suggest absolution, or it could suggest erasure. The film refuses to clarify. Just as she spent the entire story scrubbing at red walls, rewinding memories, trying to locate the exact moment the clock shifted to 12:01, she leaves this final visit without clarity. The stain remains. The question remains. And in that last exchange, Kevin becomes one final mirror. He once implied he inherited something from her. Now, he can't even define himself. Just like Ava, he's left unsure whether what happened was something he was born with or something built over time. Was Kevin inherently violent? Or was he shaped by resentment, detachment, and emotional fracture? Because the real tragedy isn't the massacre. It's the endless searching afterward. A mother replaying every look, every word, every moment of impatience, trying to determine whether she witnessed nature unfolding or nurture going wrong. And like the red that stains her hands from the very first frame, the guilt lingers, impossible to wash away. This is a very heavy and depressing movie to watch, but it is such great storytelling. There's so many examples from the film that I could have pulled from, and this video probably would have ended up being like 45 minutes long. So I highly suggest going and watching We Need to Talk About Kevin for yourself and analyzing all those details and pondering the questions it will make you think of and coming to your own conclusion on the nature versus nurture argument. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun analyzing this film. It was a very interesting watch, and I will catch you in the next one.